if the scenario happens where they have to sell the D&D IP as part of some kind of a deal, just the D&D IP, not all of WotC, what would it sell for? That is his question. What do you think that the IP would sell for?
By the way, Linda, everyone's saying you're so quiet. Feel free to interrupt us. We never stop talking. Come on, you're a rude New Yorker. Get in there.
The South. I'm a Southerner.
You're not a Southerner.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just sort of, thinking thoughts.
Thinking thoughts.
If I had to predict what it would sell for, well, if we know that D&D is an annual business of $150 million, right? So
Correct.
we know that for sure.
Yes, approximately.
And
that's about right, yes.
And that's, before taxes, trade commissions, etc.
Correct.
And it has a lot of overhead. It's like not something that like you can reproduce easily. It's not like a software company. So we're not going to go with like a software valuation. We'll go with like a product evaluation. And let's say like we're experienced, like it depends on how well, one D&D does. I would say if they really wanted to divest from D&D, which I don't think they do, I would probably put that valuation around 500 million.
Would that, but that they would have to probably, well, would they keep D&D Beyond though? Because I can't imagine any deal where someone will buy just the IP without also buying D&D Beyond. They'll have to buy that too.
So like maybe if they wanted to add D&D Beyond to it, maybe like 750. I totally forgot that they do have a software. So like maybe 750, maybe $1 billion. But I think that's like on the high end, honestly. So that's where I would put the valuation if they were asking me my opinion.
I don't really have a good way to measure it any better than you did. I was going to also say $1 billion at the high end, counting Beyond, counting everything, getting all of the assets.
Yeah, I just think that like it's just not doing well enough, and they don't have anything on the horizon. Like their product right now is their product. Like they're just gonna make their product over and over and over again. And I think that the scene is, shifting away from that product. It's not shifting fast. It is not shifting like in a way that's really extreme. But it's one of those things where they're just like, oh yeah, D&D, cool.
All right, I'll answer this. And
okay.
as usual, I have inside knowledge. So Vampire the Masquerade, I believe, sold for, I think it was 1.5 million. If someone wants to look that up. I'm going off memory here. Vampire Masquerade, pretty popular. And the only reason it was sold is because the IP, and they were going to make video games off of it. So I believe that's what it sold for. So think about that for a second, okay? And that a lot of people have heard of that one.
Yeah, but there's a difference between that and Dungeons and Dragons.
I'm completely agreeing with you, but still, that's pretty damn low, okay?
It is much lower than I would have predicted it to sell for more millions than 1.5.
Yeah, exactly.
I admit.
I think it's like somewhere between 1.5 2 million, and just look that up. I'm pretty sure that's correct. Back in the day, and this is a long time ago, this is about 20 years ago, when D&D was at its lowest point at the end of 4th edition, I was friends with a group who tried to buy Dungeons and Dragons, and they offered $20 million to buy the IP from WotC, and they were turned down. But they did try, and they actually did approach them. And this is right.
Back then, it was also a lot. It was smaller. It didn't have some. It wasn't making the amount that it's making per year. Not at all.
Yeah. So it was 20 million is what they offered, and they're like, no. Now keep in mind that was when they didn't have rights to their own movies and all that, and they're like, nah, we'll just keep it. And then if you remember when D&D 5th edition came out. I can't emphasize this enough. Their division is so tiny. They were outsourcing everything. Everything was either being done by Cobalt or freelancers,
They've gotten bigger since then.
Oh, no,
but
no,
yeah,
no.
They
Now
were
they're
they were
huge.
tiny
They were
back when they started. They
tiny.
had almost no one on staff.
No
Paizo
one.
was much bigger
No
than
one.
the D&D team.
Oh, it was a skeleton. It was a skeleton of a skeleton team. And only recently, and the only reason I'm giving this history is because like people think D&D is this monolith. It's not. It's very small. And okay, you have the D&D Beyond, so that was say 150. It was rounded up, $150 million. They make maybe about, it's estimated between 100 to 200 million. So we'll say 150 million is what the D&D makes per year approximately before taxes and everything else. So so base value of 300 million. And this is why it must drive Hasbro absolutely insane, because it's like D&D is one of the most recognizable terms and products in the world. It's curating. It's got to be one of the top 100. Like everyone has heard of it. Even if you don't know what it is, you've heard of it. And yet it makes so little money in comparison to its knowledge base. It's like this thing should be making billions of dollars a year, and yet it makes nothing. So the other problem is, okay, well, I can turn that into a movie. I can turn that into a video game. Well, you know what? No one's been proven that even works. That movie, I thought the movie was fantastic. I loved that movie. And they did everything right except the advertising campaign was atrocious. But they did everything they could. They're not going to come out with a better movie than that movie, and it still didn't even break even. So who is going to buy this and what for? For the name? And then, okay, you got the name, now what? What are you going to do with the name? Because you're going to sell books? How much money can you make on books? The only thing you might be able to do is maybe, I don't even know what you could do with it. So
what do you think, though? What number?
Well, it has to be a multiple. So, like, there's no less than ×3 to ×5. So somewhere between, maybe they would try to get at least, they'll probably try to get 2 billion for D&D, but they would probably get closer to 750 million, 600 million.
Which, to be fair, compared to the
most.
50 million offer, shows that they have increased the value by a lot since their nadir in 4E when that offer that you know about was made, right?
Yeah.
So like it is a lot more valuable now than it was then, according to our back of the envelope calculations, which I feel like are based somewhat on real actual math that exists.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was doing it for using real numbers. So
yeah.
The problem is like, who would buy them and why? Now, there is this one thing that's kind of weird that's going on right now, is that there's a lot of Arab countries and people that are just buying things up just to have them, like almost as investments or just for the hell of it. I mean, they did this with the PGA Tour. If anyone's been following golf and what's going on there, it's that thing. It's a total mess because basically Arab nations just decided to make their own PGA golf tour and just hired like every single PGA Tour, golfer they can find, and then paid them outrageous amounts of money. And then there was a war between these two divisions, and now they merged. So, but you're talking about $1 billion worldwide sport as opposed to D&D. So, it's a very different thing, but you never know. I mean, it could be someone out there who is a multi-billionaire who loves Dungeons and Dragons, who literally just wants to buy it for a passion project, and that's it, which is kind of what Embracer Group was, kind of, believe it or not. So, long story short is, I don't see it worth that much. Yes, it sounds like, $500 million, $1 billion. That's a lot of money. This is probably one of their absolute flagship products, and once you lose it forever. And they invested all this time and effort and money. They're not going to sell it. They're not going to sell this. They're not going to sell Magic. I actually think they'd sell Magic faster than they sell D&D, believe it or not. Because Magic has a tremendous amount of overhead. Way more than D&D even. Magic is a lot. It does make $1 billion a year, but they could probably sell Magic for 5-10 billion. Like, I can see that going easily for that. So I think that's what's going to happen. Anyhow, back to the main topic of.
That's sort of on the main topic.
Oh, it is.
How
it
would
is. Yeah.
Hasbro be saved? WotC-related way, and selling is one of the ways.
Well, how they're going to save it or want to sell it is that Hasbro is D&D Beyond and the VTT, is that they want to make this product super sticky. And what stickiness is like, how hard is it for you to get out of their ecosphere? And I was saying this, and what I like to say is that anything that happens in video games are always a couple of years ahead of what's going on in the TTRPG and other gaming universe. And what's happening right now it used to be, if you remember, the console wars in video games. So every few years you'd have a new console come out, and then people would just and every year would be a different console that wins. It was never the same console twice, which was kind of weird. So like, first it would be Xbox, then it'd be PlayStation, then it'd be Nintendo, and it's always a different one. That's gone. And that's because now, since all your games are on the cloud, you're not going to change your game console. So if everyone is on Sony and you bought all your games on Sony PlayStation or on Nintendo, you're probably not going to leave and go to a different console and lose your game. And so it's really becoming a war of these marketplaces. And that's super sticky. So I'll give you an example. Like the least sticky product is brand recognition. Okay, that's like the lowest tier. So brand recognition is like, I only buy, Toyotas because I love Toyotas, or I only buy Hondas, or I only buy Chryslers. Remember those? All that, that it's like those are the only cars I buy because that's what I like, or I only eat in these restaurants. So that's brand loyalty. Everyone knows about brand loyalty. That's the lowest level. The next level, which is not as sticky as people thought, is subscription services like Netflix and Hulu, but that's only medium level because yes, you can only see certain things on Netflix or on Hulu, but once you see it, you can cancel it, and you can always go back. So there's stickiness there. Because I tried to cancel my Disney Plus subscription because I didn't think anyone was watching it, and then both my kids yelled at me. They're like, "Why'd you cancel it? I tried to watch it. What's going on?" And I was like, "Oh, fine." So I had to get it back. So that's medium level stickiness. Is that, yeah, okay. I could have just said, nah, you don't need to watch Ant Farm for the 10 millionth time. You're 19 years old. Come on. You're still watching that crap? But they insisted. Okay, fine. But the top level, the really sticky stuff, the stuff that you can't get out of, is Apple. Having all your programs on the cloud, or even worse, having all your programs or your software on your iPhone because you bought like the lowest 128 meg or gig version of your iPhone, but you have 2 terabytes worth of programs and it's all in the cloud. And if you downgrade your platform, you can't use your iPhone anymore. You're paying them forever. Okay, Apple or Android. That is sticky as it gets. You're never, ever, unless you decide to throw out your phone and become a Luddite, you're never getting off of that platform. Believe it or not, D&D Beyond is at that level, and can be, because once your characters are on there and you're paying a monthly subscription fee, or you're running an adventure on there, and if you stop and you just lose access to everything, you lose all your characters, you lose the ability to transport, you can't put them anywhere else. Like, that's it. Those characters are gone. All your history is gone. All the adventures you're playing is gone. You're probably going to continue to play on D&D Beyond. And that was the whole point of the VTT, is to make this as sticky of a platform as possible so that people will subscribe to it and never, ever leave. Which is why I believe a year ago, when they were boastering and saying, "Oh yeah, those D&D Beyond cancellations, that didn't hurt us at all," I guarantee behind the scenes they were crying because they're like, "Oh my God, is this the reason?" Like, we did not expect this. We didn't expect to lose any cancellations, let alone 10% of the cancellations, and that was all money they were expecting to have all year long. I guarantee that destroyed them. Oh, by the way, Professor Dungeon Master talked about stickiness because I talked to him about stickiness at PAX, and he and I were talking about this, and then he copied me, and now I'm copying him back, so we can go back and forth all day. Anyhow, my point is, if they can weather the storm, and if they can get past these next couple of months, and if they can truly put out a good VTT and good product and get all these people back on, they might, just might, be able to have D&D become that billion-dollar brand and a continuously billion-dollar brand through D&D Beyond and subscriptions. But it's going to take a while, and I don't know if they have enough time to make it there. And that's the biggest problem. I spoke way too long. You guys talk.
I'm just saying, is that really that different than what Lynn and I said? Because you're still not proving that they will save Hasbro. You're just proving that they can be strong on their own. If Hasbro continues to hemorrhage in the rest of the departments, I feel like, and WotC shines and does really, really great, I feel like they'll just emerge out of that. Right?
But it's a difference between they were doing as well as they could possibly do. Like, okay, you had COVID, you had Stranger Things, you had Critical Role, and they're making like $150 million, $200 million. That's it. They're never, that was the peak. They're never getting past that. They're not turning into a billion-dollar brand. However, D&D Beyond, with very sticky content and forcing people into the ecosphere and bringing other people along, like Dungeon Dudes, they can turn it into a billion-dollar brand, and it might be able to save Hasbro. And then you have Magic, which is a billion-dollar brand. You have D&D, that's a billion-dollar brand. And you get $2 billion brands, that can keep you going. And not only that, it's consistent. And best of all, if it's digital, let me tell you, I'll go back to what I said about the VTT. Yeah, VTTs are very hard to set up, but once you get them going, it's a lot of money. You get a lot of money coming in. And they bought one. They have it going. It's working.